aluminum pressure plate. And these are just some details. This particular system is our YKK 750 OG curtain wall. The job that you guys are doing has the XT curtain wall, which is a different, it's, well, you know what? I think I have. Let's just, I think I actually have. Thank you. So this was a presentation I did for a customer for a specific project, and they had some unusual conditions that required that I kind of create some different details, and we're gonna kind of ignore that stuff, so don't focus too much on that. But what I'm trying to show you here is what that polyamide pressure plate looks like, okay? And a couple of things that are different about it immediately relative to our aluminum pressure plate is that it's made out of polyamide instead of aluminum. Polyamide, and I made it red here, but that's just for demonstration purposes. If you've seen them, you know it looks like black plastic, and essentially it is. Although polyamide is a very hybrid plastic compound. Okay, so a couple of things I want you to notice here is the hollows in the pressure plate, and again, we have a couple of different ways it can be installed. One way, we use a gasket that presses into the front of the mullion. On our aluminum pressure plate, where's the gasket?
On the pressure plate.
It's on the pressure plate. This one, you're either going, and it depends on what your infill thickness is and what your particular project is, but you're either going to have this gasket that presses into the front of the mullion before you put the pressure plate on, or there will be a tape that you put on the pressure plate before you put I don't know specifically on your project what you guys are doing, okay? But I'll kind of try to show it both of you. I'll show it to you both ways as we go through this. But forget about that. That was a weird thing. I just want to focus on the actual pressure plate installation and fabrication steps.
It looks like we got tape, but it looks like washers behind it, maybe?
Well, there's okay, just hang in there. Okay, hang in there. Okay. So again, the pressure plate fabrication. Let's try to focus on not just what needs to be done, but more about what's different. Okay. By the way, all the things that I'm going to talk to you about are just different. There isn't anything here that's difficult or hard for you to do. The problem that we all have is we're used to doing the same thing the same way all the time. And now we're starting to find, in my old age, I didn't realize when I was growing up, I didn't even know what a computer was. Now I use one all day, every day, and things change and you have to adapt. But this is the pressure plate, the fabrication. The cut length on the horizontal pressure plate is DLO minus a half an inch. So there's one thing that's different. Instead of cutting it a quarter of an inch short, we're going to cut it a half an inch short. And the reason for that is because of the thickness of the thermal break, or the thickness of the pressure plate relative to the aluminum one. So we need to cut it a little bit shorter so we've got more space to get that sealant between the end of the pressure plate and the vertical face cap. Okay? So we have to cut it a little bit shorter to give us room to get more of that sealant in there because this is so much thicker. You'll also notice that the hollows in the pressure plate need to be sealed at the ends of the pressure plates. You see that? And the hollows are small, so I think you can seal them without even needing to use backer rod or anything. Just gun some sealant in there and kind of tool it on, okay? So the pressure plates, horizontals, are going to be cut to DLO minus a half an inch. The vertical pressure plates are going to be cut the same length as the vertical mullion, okay, just like the aluminum ones. The fastener holes on these pressure plates come with fastener holes every 8 inches instead of every 9 inches, okay? there is no significance to those holes being every 8 inches. It's for no reason. The reason, if you remember, the aluminum pressure plate was every 9 inches, right? The only reason these come every 8 inches is because the vendor that we buy this pressure plate from is stamping them every 8 inches. There's no significance to it. It's not, we're not doing it a different length for any reason other than that's the way it's manufactured for us, okay? But you still need to make sure you have one 1.5 inches from the ends. So just like the aluminum pressure plates, you're going to need to make sure you've got a fastener hole 1.5 inches from the ends. Also, because we've got hollow areas in the pressure plate, another thing that's going to be different is we're going to drill 3 weep holes per horizontal pressure plate, and they're going to be located 3 inches from the end, 3 inches from the other end, and 1 in the center. But these weep holes are going to be what size? 3/8, 0.375, which is 3/8. The reason that we're drilling them a little bit bigger is because we have to put these weep tubes in. Okay, you were asking about the weep tubes. So the weep tubes, I believe they're just white, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just little kind of white tubes. What we're putting the only reason we're putting the tubes in is because what we don't want to have happen is we don't want the water from the glass pocket just to fill up this empty area here, okay? We want the water from the glass pocket to go through and down to the face cap, just like it does with the aluminum one. So these weep tubes, and they come already cut to size. They come in a bag. There's a little bag full of them. You've seen them. Yeah. There's a little bag full of them, and all you have to do is press them in. And if you've drilled this hole the right size, 3/8 of an inch, it'll fit right in there. Okay, you don't need to, but I'm going to recommend that you do it anyway. Okay, so when you put these tubes in, just put a little dab of, I don't care, it can be glue or silicone, just something on there so that when you push this in, it's got an adhesive to hold it in place. And the reason I say that is because when you start moving these things around, you're carrying them around the job site, especially if you have longer ones, if they twist, or if you drop them, the weep tubes might fall out, okay? So you just want to kind of glue them into place, all right? Any questions about this?
Nope.
It's different, isn't it?
Could the tubes go in after you push the pressure plate?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, they can go in at any time, okay? I'm just saying, a lot of times people want to put them in the shop. You know, if you have like an apron, and you've got your pressure plate screws here, and you've got your washers here, and you got the tubes here, you can do it all right there in the field if you want to. It's up to you, okay?
And you can put the plate on, then you can put the weep.
We'll get there. We'll get there, okay? Hang on. Any questions so far? Right? You guys are capable of doing this. It's different, right? But it's not rocket science, okay? We talked about all of this, and again, this is just a little bit better view of what's going on. I think it would be cool if these were red like that. I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan. We like red and black.
We like them green.
You like them green. I get that. Yeah, you got half of my football team playing defense for you now, don't you? I like that. Okay? So the face, everything else is going to be the same. The gaskets are the same. The joint plugs are the same. All of that stuff is going to be the same. The face caps are the same. All this stuff, it kind of works pretty well that way, okay? This stuff is all the same. Come on. Mullion end caps, none of that's different. Door frames installation, all the same. Wind load and dead load anchors, it's all still the same, okay? All of this is the same. All of this is the same, right? Joint plugs. Here's something that's different. This is not related to the pressure plate, but you'll notice what we have here. What's this? Yeah, that's a setting block chair. When we have systems like this that have our megatherm thermal break in it, we don't like, especially in curtain wall systems where you can have very large lights of glass, we don't want all that weight bearing on that megatherm. So we have these aluminum chairs, and the aluminum chairs, if you look at the diagram here, they just rotate into place. Okay, and if you want, you can put a little dab of sealant underneath them if you want to put them on in the shop, or you can put them on in the field. All we want is we want the weight of the hey guys, give me just a second here, okay? We want the weight of the glass transmitted back to the mullion and not putting the tongue of the mullion under torque. Okay, so that's the idea behind the setting block chairs. And the setting block chairs are just pieces of aluminum. They don't run the entire length of the horizontal. And like I said, they just rotate into place. Just pay attention to what you're doing. You'll notice that there's a reglet right here for the gasket. There's a second reglet right here for the setting block chair. And I've seen guys go out, they send me pictures where they're going, we think there's something wrong with the setting block chair because they've rotated it into place and it's sticking up here. What they've done is they've stuck it in the wrong reglet. It needs to go down in this reglet right here is specifically for the setting block chair. The upper reglet is still for gaskets. Okay. This is something else that's different. We do not have a perimeter pressure plate for this. Okay. So what we do have is this E3 3665, and it's made out of the same material as the pressure plate is. So it's a black plastic-like material, and what you're going to do is it's just going to snap into the mullions at the perimeter conditions. And what that's for is when you set the glass in and put the pressure plate in, it evens out the pressure on the pressure plate. So you get even compression on the gaskets. So these are just snapping in around the perimeter. This sealant that you're seeing right here, that's not doing any sealing. It's just an adhesive to hold this in place for when you're moving these things around.
Is that a clip or an extrusion?
This, it's an extrusion. Okay, so they come, I don't know how long they are. They come in a length, but they're going to run the entire length of your perimeter mullions. Okay. Sometimes those oddball materials come in different stock lengths. They're not going to come in. They're 18-footers.
Sometimes I see some of those things that come in apart.
No. It's going to be it's going to be a stock length. Okay. Temporary installation, all of that stuff's the same. Okay. Now, remember I said, and again, I don't know what you have. You said there's something about tape. You guys have tape.
I thought it was. I didn't
Okay.
really,
So you're either going to have a gasket that presses into the front of the mullion, or you're going to have this tape. And the tape comes in rolls, and you're just going to roll it right down the middle of the pressure plate. Okay? It's adhesive on one side, it's got paper on the other side. Obviously, you want to peel the paper off before you stick it onto the front. What this is doing, the only thing that this tape is doing is providing an air and water seal so that you don't get water, especially on the horizontals, migrating between the pressure plate and the tongue of the mullion. Okay, but this is going to run the entire length of all of your pressure plates.
What's the difference between the tape and the gasket? Is it for glass thickness?
Yeah, it's for glass thickness. So if you have and again, that's why I don't know.
It's probably 1 inch glass.
If it's 1 inch glass, you're probably going to have the tape. Okay, that would be my guess. Okay, just make sure the key thing with the tape is whoever has to do the tape. That's a little bit of a pain in the ass. It's not difficult, but you want to make sure that you're covering all of the holes. So I did a project where they had some leaks, and when I had them take the pressure plate off, the tape was snaking down the mullion, and they actually missed the anchor holes with the tape. The tape needs to run straight down the middle of the mullion. Okay, if you only catch half of the anchor hole, then you're inviting moisture to go places where you don't want it to go. Okay, so that's kind of a key thing. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different too. When you go to put the pressure plates on, one thing you'll notice is that we have washers. Okay, because the pressure plate is hollow, we want you to use washers, and these washers are great big monster washers. They're not like a little washer. It's like probably this big around. They're called fender washers, right? The idea with this washer is the washer is intended to cover both of these legs. So I don't know if you can see it in this. Look on page. You don't have this. but that washer is big. It's almost covering the weep hole. So you got to kind of watch for if your weep holes are near where those fastener holes are. But that's so that when you torque this down, it doesn't crush the plastic and disform it. The other thing is the aluminum pressure plates where you guys haven't been paying much attention to your torque, okay? This is much more sensitive to torque than the aluminum pressure plates are. If you have a torque problem, you will know it because when you look at the pressure plate after you've put it on, it'll be wavy. If it's wavy, then you've probably torqued it down too tight. The problem with wavy is it'll be tight where the fasteners are, but then it'll bow out in between. And if it bows out, that means you're not getting good compression between the pressure plate and the tongue of the mullion, or the pressure plate and the glass. That's why the torque is very sensitive on this. The fasteners, the washers really help with that. Okay. Originally, we didn't have washers at all, and then later we went to a small washer. And what we found is, not to be insulting, it's a little more idiot-proof with the bigger washer. Okay. My preference would be that you pay very close attention to your torque when you're doing this. Whatever method you use to manage that. Okay. And then of course those are going to be every 8 inches. Now the other thing is, even though I don't know if you're using deep covers or not, but even if you're using the shallow covers, the amount of friction that you get between the aluminum face cap and the pressure plate is not as much as if they were both made out of aluminum. So they will slide. So you're going to need to pin the face caps to the pressure plates. Our experience has been you only need to do that at one location. And typically what they'll do is when they put that vertical face cap on, they'll pin it one time down at the bottom of the vertical face cap so that when you snap the sill face cap on, it covers that fastener.
What are they pinning it with? Just self-tapper? Oh, it's an Allen key?
No, it's a little screw. You got to drill a little hole there. Yeah.
Wouldn't it just sit on the end dam and not slide off the bottom?
Well, if the end dam is rigid enough to prevent it from going down, but I don't think the end dam has got some flex in it. Okay.
Yeah, and once it's caulked, then it's
Yeah.
It's really big.
But that's just one screw. That's just one screw, and it's only at the end. We're not asking you to pin it at every horizontal. Okay. That's it. Okay. And same thing for if we've got the deeper. This polyamide pressure plate has got the flange, so there's not like a special one for if you've got the deep cover. It already has a flange, so you can do that. Okay. And then again, there's that washer, FW2500. Okay. Make sure you have the right washers. I had a project a couple of years ago where the guys were telling me they had the right washers and they were complaining about dimpling, where they were putting the pressure plate screws in. It shouldn't be dimpling and it shouldn't be wavy. If you're seeing dimpling and waving, you've either got the wrong washers or you've got, your torque isn't good. Okay. Otherwise, it's a piece of cake. Okay. It's just a little different, something different for you to do. Okay. And then of course the face covers snap on the same way. And that's it. Okay. You guys have any other questions about the polyamide pressure plates? Again, that's just the direction things are going in. Okay. It's a fairly inexpensive way to get really good thermal performance, better thermal performance, but it does require, a little bit of extra knowledge and a little bit of attention to detail when you're putting it on. Okay. But good luck on your project. It was great. It was great meeting you guys today. Thank you for doing business with YKK, and I hope I never see you again.
Except for another training.
Whatever, unless we're doing another training.
I want to.
Good meeting you too. Thanks. You betcha. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Where's up downstairs?
Yeah.
You betcha. Thank you for coming.
Green one is no that. Sneaky little thing. Thank you so much. All right, Ty.
We'll see you guys.
What are you up to tomorrow?
Everything got switched up. I think I'm doing a law
You betcha.
somewhere,
We'll see you.
and then all servers tomorrow.
Learned so much.
Well,
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried when I heard you guys were coming and how long you've been with the company and what your background was, because this wasn't really geared for that.
But we have a lot of residential outdoor experience.
Yeah.
And I have some commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
but there is a lot more overlap than you think there is.
Okay. Good.
Seeing the images of stuff while you're explaining, even though you're explaining the install, it's still helping us put the pieces together.
Well, and that's why we do the training that way. So
Yeah.
when you guys come to Atlanta for the employee training,
yeah,
I'm gonna be covering this exact same stuff.
Yeah.
The difference is going to be that when I have a group of employees, I can kind of talk about it differently than I do if I have customers there.
yeah.
And then the other thing is we actually have mock-ups. So you'll be able
Yeah,
to
that would be
assemble
that.
and install these things.
That
Now
would
we
be
don't handle glass in there, but
Yeah.
but it's more about understanding the parts and pieces and how everything works.
No, I
So-
totally found it helpful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And
I was a little
I
concerned
know,
about that.
completely understood everything that you were talking
Good.
about, even down to like the pressure plates and
Yeah.
the convection and stuff. Like we had to know U values and
Sure.
all that stuff, so
Yeah.
I understand gain transfer from
Yeah.
inside to outside and
Well,
You know,
I figured
none of
if
that-
anything, you guys would know that.
right.
So I was more concerned about the storefront and curtain wall stuff and how
But
much you knew about
seeing
that.
and that's what we needed.
Yeah.
Actually, is
And now I totally understand the difference
between
and
the
how-
different systems,
Yeah.
which is where we were having issues. Is okay.
because now I see
They
how
all-
the difference in the install
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
I understand what the limitations of one is over the other.
Right.
Okay.
And before I was just seeing big walls of glass, no
Sure.
matter what.
Yeah.
So this definitely helped me
Okay,
break it
good.
down. And,
Yeah.
and
That makes me feel a lot better. I was a little, I when I was looking at you during the thing, I've done this for so many years.
Yeah.
I can look at somebody and I can kind of tell if it's working. You know, if they're
Yes.
getting. I can tell you guys. I look around. And sometimes these guys get it, and sometimes they don't,
Yeah.
and that's part of the thing. So I'm glad you feel like it was worthwhile for you.
Definitely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
For sure.
Well, by the way, welcome to YKK.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
It really is a good company, a good place to work.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are a little bit spoiled because these guys are the best.
Yes.
That's
We-
what
Well,
we're.
we're
we don't
walking
have-
around going, holy
Yeah,
shit.
we don't, and not only just the nature of their business, but the people.
Mhm.
These guys are not like the rest of our customers.
Yeah.
I wish they were all like this, but they're not.
Yeah.
And it's the not that you have to deal with on a daily basis that
Yes.
can sometimes make it challenging.
Yeah.
But in terms of the company, YKK is a really good company to work for. You know, you'll see a lot of signs on the walls like the cycle of goodness and things like that. I've been to places where they put stuff up like that and it's like the HR guys made it up.
Yeah.
That stuff means something to this company.
Yeah.
And we take it seriously. And while sometimes it might seem a little bit hokey, I still respect the fact that we actually live it as a company. And so I think that it's a good place to work.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed my time here, and I'm glad that we get people like you. Pella's a great company. That's a great company too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know.
And
I
also,
know.
to a certain extent, they have their issues as well.
Sure.
But the
But-
distributorship that we both worked at together, they got bought out about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The owner sold them.
Mm-hmm.
And the new ownership the old ownership was a family. The family had owned it for 80 years.
Yeah.
And now the new owner is very much, this is a money-making machine.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no...
That happens.
Yeah,
that happened
absolutely.
when I was at Conair.
Yeah.
We had the same thing happen. Conair was owned by Alumax and had owned Conair for ages. And they didn't, they kind of, and the president of Alumax had been the president of Conair. And so Conair was just out there kind of making money. There was not a lot of interference. And then when Alumax got bought by Alcoa, all of a sudden, they look at things differently. They look
Yeah.
at different metrics.
Yes.
And so the result of that was, a lot of the things that Conair used to be really, really good at, they did not see the value in. They eliminated that, and of course that changes
Right.
the nature of the company.
Yes.
And you can either stay there and go, well, I've worked here for 15 years, I might as well just ride it out, or you go and you try something different.
And that's what I felt like. I kept saying to her, I feel like I've topped out in my knowledge of Pella product,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
nothing more that I can learn there. There's nothing
Yeah.
left
Well-
that's interesting or challenging.
Yeah.
And
Not even necessarily just Pella product, but with Pella Mid-Atlantic.
yes,
I feel like there's,
yes, the distributor in particular.
they came in and did not